There are tons of ways to invest in real estate, and people always ask how to get started. And my answer is, what are you looking to invest in? And to further understand this today, I will break down the different ways to invest in real estate and the risk and rewards of each so you can understand what method may work best for you and your risk tolerance. Now, before we begin, full disclaimer, these are ways I've used to profit and what I've experienced. So if you have a different method, please by all means leave me some comments down below. Now, the first way to invest in real estate is flipping houses. This is where you buy the house with all intentions of selling it quickly for obviously a profit. Now, with flipping houses, there are huge profit margins, but you need to consider the market risk as well that you could be up against, especially like in today's market, whereas a few years ago, the longer you held on to that property, it seemed like the value just increased daily. But right now, you need to be extremely cautious, and depending on what type of flipper that you're going to be, you may hold the house for 1 day, 1 month, 3 months, or even a year. And the different methods that you use could be just maybe a cosmetic remodel where you're going to do paint and carpet and put it on the market, or like some, you'll go down to the studs, or you may even add an addition or even an ADU to the property, obviously depending on what areas that you're in. Now, along with flipping homes, you need to remember, and I tell my clients this all the time, every home has a surprise, and you're going to run into some unaccounted expenses along the way. You will also have a huge investment cost, as you may pay cash for the home, plus you have your rehab costs, or if you get a loan against that property, you'll have the down payment plus the closing costs, plus then you'll have your rehab costs on top of it. Now, this is a good way to make good income, but again, just factor in these items that I just discussed on flipping home. Now, the next way to invest in real estate is wholesaling deals. Now, if you're new to the business and you want to jump in, this is the way to get started immediately. And keep in mind with wholesaling, because of the low risk of getting into the business, it is also very, very competitive. You are always out doing hardcore sales. You're constantly out looking for deals, and you are competing with so many people out there. Now, with wholesaling and why it is a low risk, usually you don't have any of your own money tied up, except for maybe a little bit of the earnest money if it's applicable. But mainly, you're the middle person between the seller and the new buyer, which is usually another investor. And once you make the deal with the investor, they bring all the money to closing, and then they pay you what is called an assignment fee. Now, again, this is a great way to get into real estate investing right away. And this is the way I personally got started in the business. Now, the next way to get into real estate investing is buying land. Now, I'm not really a big fan of this method, but I wanted to bring it up because I know people that are doing it. Land is a very niche market, and especially right now, as you need to buy that land and find the right investor to purchase this. Now, you can get a great deal on land, but you just need to remember it's a tough resale, and if you're looking to finance land, it is tough to get a loan against as well. Now, depending on the type of land that you do find, obviously there are some benefits to it. Maybe you can rent to people to store things on the land, or in some areas of the country, you can even charge people to hunt on the land. But as far as development, just be careful, and again, I would not advise you to focus on buying land unless you really know what you are doing. Now, the next method to get into real estate investing is one that I personally think is a top option where everybody should be, and that is buying and holding properties. Now, when you buy and hold properties, you not only get that steady stream of income, or what we all like to call mailbox money, but you also build a wealth generator, as you will also gain appreciation through the years as you own that property. Now, I got into buying and holding after I was a wholesaler, which I talked about earlier, and I just took my profits from my wholesale deals, and I had a formula that every fifth deal, let's say, I would buy and hold that property. But now, further into my career, that is all I like to do, is buy and hold onto them, if the numbers obviously make sense. Now, when you buy and hold properties, not only do you get the benefits of the appreciation and the income, but you also have good options for loan programs as well, where you can pull that money back out and keep your holding costs down. But the one thing with buying and holding properties, you will tie up capital on the property acquisition and also the remodeling cost. But if it all makes sense for your financial position, I do strongly suggest to look at buying and holding properties. Now, the next way to get into real estate investing, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this, it's short-term rentals. Now, through short-term rentals, these generate great cash flow up front. And again, you build equity. But back to my wholesale example, this method is very competitive as everybody is now trying to do short-term rentals. Now, one thing you need to think about are all the restrictions that places are starting to put on short-term rentals. I mean, I'll give you an example. I bought a property up in Breckenridge, Colorado for a short-term rental. And as we were working on it, the city passed an ordinance that you had to have a short-term rental license in order to do it. And not only did they push this to pass, they also limited the short-term rentals to 2,500 people. And that really put a hit on the properties up in Breckenridge. And since then, we went ahead and sold that property. So you just need to keep that in mind as well. Another thing to consider when you're thinking of short-term rentals is you're pretty much running a hospitality business, and you'll be constantly bringing people in and out every week. You got scheduling to upkeep, you got the property maintenance. So it is a lot of work, just like anything is. But again, there's also a lot of great profits with short-term rentals, and especially if you're in a niche market for that short-term rental. Now, the next method, I've done this in the past and I really like this method, but you also need to have a lot of money sitting around, in my opinion, and that's hard money lending. Now, when you give hard money loans, you get yourself into a good equity position, as usually you'll end up to say 60-65% of the value of the property, and you can do terms say up to 6 months, and also charge a few points up front. And also the rates, especially right now, you can usually get in the low teens. Now, the one risk of the hard money lending is obviously your money is going to be tied up for a period of time, and you will not get it back till that person borrowing it sells the property. But again, if you keep the term short and you also have a good equity position, you are in a pretty good secured position on the collateral. Now, again, I have done this method a few times. I really like this option, but it is very cash heavy and you need to have a lot of money lying around. And one thing I can recommend, if you have some money sitting around in a retirement fund, you can do a thing called a self-directed IRA and talk to your tax consultant. I'm not a tax advisor on the benefits of that, but usually you can loan out money through your IRA and take all those profits back tax-free. So again, if you have that money sitting around, want to try something different, I'd highly recommend this option. Now, another way to get into real estate investing is investing in multifamily residential properties. I really like these as well. And in my opinion, the more doors, the better. You can get really good deals on multifamily properties, as usually people need to obtain commercial loans to purchase these properties. So if you have cash sitting around, you can get a super great deal on these properties. But again, you need to keep in mind, if you ever resell, that you could be up against those problems as people are limited with their loan options. But FHA has made changes to these where some units can be purchased now with little money down, as long as that one person occupies part of that property. And that's huge huge now from back when I used to do my lending days, as we did not have those products. And again, these products are a great income stream. And again, I am a really big fan of multifamily residential investing. Now, the next way to invest in real estate, I also do this currently, and that's owning commercial properties. Now, commercial properties, they're a lot of risk. They are very, very hard to get loans on. And also, if you're looking at, say, office buildings and so forth, those are difficult, especially now, to get leased out because everybody's online and such. So just be careful. And the one thing with commercial, the property taxes are way higher than if you own residential property. So just keep that one thing in mind. Now, the thing I invest in commercial property, and I'm a huge fan of this, I own a self-storage facility, and these are great businesses. There's little moving parts to this business. Now, the taxes, the property taxes are higher on this, but it is a great income stream. And most of the time, the facility is around 98% occupied, and it pretty much runs itself. And they're usually very hard to find anymore. And when you do, the acquisition cost can be substantially high. Now, another way to invest in real estate, and I'm only going to talk about this just a little bit, but it's subject to deals. And what I mean by subject to is basically you can take over the loan that somebody has if you're looking to purchase that home. And usually these people have very low interest rates, but through the last handful of years, these haven't been much of an option because of our huge appreciation and the fact that you have to basically bridge the gap between what's owed on the property and what you're buying it for. So these can be very cash heavy deals as well. But if you are able to make this type of an option work, they are very good when you can make those numbers work. As again, a lot of the people out there with these usually have rates under 5%, but just keep that in mind of the big amount of cash you may need to bridge that gap on a subject to deal. Now back to the buy and hold. This next method of investing in real estate is a common practice that a lot of investors use, and it is called the BRRRR method. And what I mean by the BRRRR method is you buy the property, you renovate it, you rent it, you refi, and you repeat. Now, the cost of doing this, obviously, after you've already purchased the property, is the cost to refinance into a new loan. And you'll also have all new title costs and so forth. But the benefit to this is if you have enough equity into the property, it's almost like flipping a house, but you get to keep that property, and you also get to take out a lot of your money out of that property through the new loan. Now, you need to keep in mind when you are looking to refinance a property, some lenders may have seasoning requirements at times, so you may not be able to get that full equity on the new value. But most of the time you can, and it is a great option, especially when the rates are low like we have been through. And maybe nowadays in the current market we're in, may not be as much, but just do your numbers on the time it takes for you to recoup those costs and also obviously your carrying costs on doing the BRRRR method. Now, as you can see, there are many ways to invest in real estate. If I had to select one of these options I just covered today, I would say eventually focusing on buy and holding properties would be one of my top recommendations, but everybody has their own risk tolerance. And please comment below and add some of your methods or anything related, as I always look for other ways to help people invest in real estate. And also like and subscribe. It helps me grow my channel, and we'll see you all next time.